Everything is cool when I'm with you. Feel like it's a drink whenever you kiss up on me. Do you feel it too? I feel it. Oh, I can't even lie. It feels so right when I'm with you. I lose sight of time. Everything is cool when I'm with you. When I'm with you,
everything be cool, it be kosher. I'ma be your #1 soldier. How about some matching Range Rovers? I'ma be your #1 lover. Ride with me, girl, come ride with me. I'ma show you that this ain't no fantasy. Vibe with me, girl, come vibe with me. I'ma sing it to you like a Jodeci.
it's alright when you're by my side. You be my ride or die till the end, like Bonnie and Clyde. It's alright when you're by my side. You be my ride or die till the end, like Bonnie and Clyde. Oh, feel like it's been bound to happen to me. Never really loved intentionally. I've been having other thoughts when you're around me. Yeah, I ain't gonna.
All right. Peace, everybody. This your brother Kimbe Ani. I'm happy to be with you, or you with me, however you want to look at it, for another installment of our brand new series, Kimbe Reads. Kimbe Reads is dedicated to authors, playwrights, poets, artists, and creatives of African descent from all over the globe. So that's what we dedicated to. Our first selection, as you see me preparing, is Assata. Assata is an autobiography written by Assata Shakur herself, with a foreword from the revolutionary Angela Davis, and of course the world-renowned attorney Mr. Lennox S. Hines. Today we are on chapter 5. We have made it up to chapter 5. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of y'all, everybody who has been with me on this journey so far. This book has 21 chapters. It's very thoughtfully broken down. I try to provide a brief analysis, not too much, not too little, not too much. The odd number chapters. What is the significance of the odd number chapters? Well, I'm glad you asked. The odd number chapters are dedicated to Assata Shakur's trial. Every aspect of her life that's dealing with the trial that she is currently facing, or the many trials that she's currently facing. As we'll see in chapter 5, it gets interesting. The plot thickens. We get deeper and deeper into this story. It's rich. A lot of details, a lot of hidden gems and wisdoms, and it's an eye opener. So stay tuned. I'm gonna begin right now. So chapter 5 begins with an abrupt transfer from one prison to another. So here we go. We're already jumping right in. My abrupt transfer from one jail to another, without either notice to my lawyers or explanation to me, was a scenario that would be repeated over and over again during the next few years. So we have some foreshadowing. She letting us know, even though this is the first time we're hearing about this abrupt transfer from another jail to a jail in chapter 5, that throughout the rest of the chapters going up to chapter 21, this is going to be a reoccurring theme. This is going to happen over and over again. My abrupt transfer from one jail to another, without either notice to my lawyers or explanation to me, was a scenario that would be repeated over and over again during the next few years. After our motion for a change of venue from Middlesex County was granted in October 1973, I was returned to the basement of the Middlesex County Jail, where I believed I would remain until the trial resumed in Morris County on January 4th, 1974. Evelyn immediately swung into action, contacting the National Jury Project to explore the level of racism in Morris County and preparing a number of motions she anticipated would have to be made before the Morris County Court. In addition, she was working on the continuous motion to remove me from solitary confinement in the Middlesex County Jail that was then before the New Jersey Federal District Court. The underlying argument of the motion is that this kind of confinement destroyed my ability to adequately participate in preparation for my trial. Unfortunately, this had to be supported by psychological data and the opinions of experts. So wow, chapter 5, again, this book, it does not have very many dry spots. I encourage you to get the book, because if you're reading with me, this is an entirely different experience for you, because you're not hanging on to my every word. I don't want you to give me that much responsibility, because I believe in everybody's ability to be a critical thinker. It's not for you to have the same opinion as I do. It's for me and you to get down into those comments and share with one another and build with one another, so we can get a consensus or understanding about what's truly going on here, because there's a lot going on here. I'm going to continue. When the feds told me they were taking me to New York to go to trial, I didn't know what in the world was going on. But I was sure Evelyn would straighten things out. There was no way in hell I can go to trial in federal court, not unless they gave us time to prepare for it and canceled the Jersey trial. There was no way that Evelyn can deal with both trials at the same time. She was working so hard I couldn't keep track of all that she was doing. I knew we had arrived somewhere in Queens, but I didn't know where. There was no courthouse in the direction we had gone. The car came to a bridge where pigs were stationed, pointing rifles and shotguns. On the other side of the bridge were more police. Where are we? Where is this place? So just mentally, if you're trying to put yourself in Assata's shoes, this is a very uncomfortable situation. So let's talk about the background. She's on trial in New Jersey. All of a sudden, police come into her cell. Hold on, let me back up. Let's talk about her cell. She's in solitary confinement. She's not speaking to anyone. She doesn't have interactions with other human beings. This is going to weigh on you mentally, psychologically, most certainly spiritually, and quite potentially physically as well. So she's in solitary confinement. There's a couple months before her trial is supposed to begin in New Jersey, right? The feds, the police officers, out of nowhere, out of the blue, come into her cell and tell her she's being moved. She's put in the back of a motorcade, right? She's surrounded by police officers. It's such a big production. You know what I mean? It looks like a damn parade, man. You got cars trailing her car, cars in front of her car. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. It's theatrical and jovial and comical. It's kind of funny because they funny acting. But anyway, I digressed. Now she's been moved to New York City for another trial. So we're going to have to stay tuned to see what she's being charged with this time. It's clear that she's being railroaded. That's a word or term I learned reading this book, and I like it. I mean, clearly, like, she has obstacles. She has an opposition who are not trying to let this woman live her best life. Views on Rikers Island. You are now on Rikers Island. This will be your new home for a while, the marshal told me. It'll never be my home. I looked around while they waited for clearance to pass through the gate. There were huge, ugly buildings in front of us. Not old or dilapidated as I had imagined when I pictured Rikers Island, but institutional looking nevertheless. Are all these buildings jails? I asked. Yep, said the marshal. They're all jails. There are a lot of criminals in this world. Everybody in jail isn't a criminal, I told him. And they've got a lot of criminals locking people up. They've got a gang of criminals in the White House. Wow, it sounds like she's talking about like today. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like she's talking about 2019 current administration. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy some of the parallels that still exist. This is over 30. Man, I'm not even doing it justice. If it's 2019 and this incident happened in 1973, I'm not the best mathematician, but we talking about at least 4 decades ago, right? At least maybe 5. I don't know, but it could have been yesterday. That's all I'm saying. This entire autobiography could have been written yesterday. We're going to continue. After I had been waiting for what seemed like hours, they brought in a whole bunch of women. It was wonderful. They were real, live people, talking and laughing. It had been so long since I had even heard a conversation. I just sat there staring at them. I know I must have looked like I was crazy. Staring like I was, but I just couldn't help it. I was overwhelmed. I could barely talk, though. When someone asked my name, I stammered and stuttered. My voice was so low, everyone constantly asked me to repeat myself. That was one of the things that always happened to me after long periods of solitary confinement. I would forget how to talk. Wow, I mean, that is self-explanatory, but I'm going to add a little spice to the rice. The harmful effects of solitary confinement. Even social isolation, putting yourself on an island. Sometimes it's necessary for self-love, to boost self-esteem, to make functional self-efficacy, to improve your self-concept. However, human beings, we are social creatures. And I feel like we need to be social creatures with other social creatures, and maybe not as much with social media. Oh, I digressed again. Let's continue before I get into too much trouble. All right, I don't think they're gonna like that one. So I'm gonna repeat it again. Human beings are social creatures. Just maybe we should focus more on being social creatures with other social creatures and decrease our dependency on social media. Ooh, not gonna like that. All right, moving right along. We're going to deal with some of the media misconceptions and manipulation of the public opinion. Remember, you also are being judged in the court of public opinion. All right? So Assata is being judged in the court of public opinion, as well as in multiple courtrooms, as we see now. When I saw your picture, I thought you was much bigger and much blacker too. Really? I laughed. It was a statement I heard over and over. Everybody told me they thought I was bigger, blacker, and uglier. When I asked people what they thought I looked like, they would describe someone about 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, and very dark and wild looking. Bad as them papers said you was, I just knew you had to look bad, and here you are, just a little old thing. I asked them what they were in prison for, and of course of those next few days, I was to learn a whole new vocabulary. Jostling was pickpocketing, boosting was shoplifting, juggling paper was writing bad checks, and dragging or playing drag was conning, running game. All right, so we have Assata. She's talking about every time she does finally have a social interaction with another individual, they are constantly telling her, I thought you were bigger, I thought you were blacker, I thought you were uglier, because that's the way Assata is currently being portrayed in the media. And the reason why that's disturbing is that the media is a powerful weapon in the hand of the oppressor, those who are trying to withhold freedom and rights and certain privileges from a certain group of people. The media is a weapon. It's a very powerful weapon. It's an effective weapon. You can affect the way people feel about people. You can really change the way people see the world. Like we know in our modern times how we can watch a cop murder an individual on camera, right? And become desensitized to it because we've seen it over and over again. And the cop still gets off, even though the world has just witnessed you murder a human being, right? Don't matter. You know, that's what happens when you have media manipulation. The media will have you thinking your enemy is your friend, or even worse, the media will have you thinking your enemy is your advocate. And the media will also conversely have you thinking your advocate is your enemy. It's sick. It's sick. And it's not right, but these are the games that we play with each other. And we'll continue. Chapter 5, y'all. We're on chapter 5. I'm going to wrap this up. So here's the incident. I'm letting you know right now it's a little heavy. It's not positive. Brace yourself and listen carefully. All right? I'm a little hoarse. Listen carefully. As we left the courtroom, Akila was standing in the hallway with Kise, Kamal's 2-year-old daughter. As he walked near her, she held out her arms to him. Kamal took about 2 steps toward her, and the marshals jumped him and began beating him. I jumped on the marshals and tried to pull them off. In an instant, there was one hell of a fight in the hallway. Finally, the marshals drew their guns and forced us to lie down on the floor with our arms spread apart. We lay there while they stomped on our backs and kicked us as they handcuffed our hands behind our backs. Akila ran to tell everybody what was going on as Kise screamed hysterically. I will never forget the haunting scream of that child as she watched her father being brutally beaten. After the fight, the marshals were vicious and vindictive. They did everything they could to provoke and harass us. Newspapers reported that we had attacked the marshals. After that, Kamal and I were banned from the courtroom. We were put into a freezing room next to the courtroom where a loudspeaker had been installed so we could listen to the trial. In the beginning, they slammed the door shut. At first, we wanted the door open because it was so cold and the warmth from the rest of the building helped. Then we began to enjoy the privacy. It was good to be able to talk to each other without someone looking down our throats. Because we knew that sooner or later they would open the door and stare at us, we would open it. Alright, so Kamal and Assata, they have been held in contempt of the court because Kamal's 2-year-old daughter was at one of the court proceedings. She wanted to hug her father. He took 2 steps in her direction. He was immediately jumped by the marshals. Now, Assata Shakur, being the type of woman she is, having the type of temper that she does, and calling a spade, calling red, and black, she wasn't having it. She jumps on the officers. Many people wouldn't have done that. She tries to pull them off. They end up being put face first on the ground. Now they're being stomped in the back while they're simultaneously being handcuffed. They are no longer allowed to even be in the courtroom for their own trial. I didn't even know that can happen, but clearly it can. So we're going to continue. Now Kamal and Assata are in a holding cell because they're not allowed in the courtroom. They have the freedom to close and open the door at will. They are starting to enjoy privacy. They are starting to enjoy each other's company. So we're going to see where this evolves from here. Kamal argued that Islam was a just religion, opposed to oppression. Oppression is worse than slaughter, he quoted from the Holy Quran. A true Muslim is a true revolutionary. There is no contradiction between being a Muslim and being a revolutionary. I didn't know much about it, but I agreed to seriously check it out. Muslim services were held regularly on Rikers Island, and Simba and I began to attend. Talking to Kamal was good for me. Solitary had affected me really badly. I had closed up inside myself and had forgotten how to relate in an open way with people. We spent whole days laughing and talking and listening to the courtroom madness in between. Each day we grew closer until one day it was clear to both of us that our relationship was changing. It was growing physical. We began to touch and to hold each other, and each of us was like an oasis to the other. For a few days, the question of sex was there. Then one day, we talked about it. Surely it was possible, but I thought the consequences. Pregnancy was certainly a possibility. I was facing life in prison. Kamal will also be in prison for a long time. The child will have no mother and no father. Wow, so you can see that escalated quickly. Kamal and Assata, you know what I'm saying? They don't spend much time with anybody. I'm sure Kamal is in isolation as well. You have Assata Shakur, who's been in solitary confinement since she's been incarcerated. So they spending time with each other. They're talking about various topics. They find an affinity for one another. They're starting to be attracted to one another. It's getting physical. They're even talking about having sex. So we'll see where it goes from here. It looks like it's heating up. I thought about what Zaid had always told me. While you alive, girl, you better live. I am about life, I said to myself. I'm going to live as hard as I can and as full as I can until I die. And I'm not letting these parasites, these oppressors, these greedy racist swine make me kill my children in my mind before they are even born. I'm going to live and I'm going to love Kamal. And if a child comes from that union, I'm going to rejoice because our children are our futures. And I believe in the future and in the strength and in the rightness of our struggle. I was ready for whatever happened. I relaxed and let nature take its course. You know what that stands for. I relaxed and let nature take its course. So it's going down, went down. I don't know, going down. I don't know how to really address that. But Brother Kamal and Assata are now having physical relations, and they are even considering children. They're considering having little ones. So they're getting it in. Let me see, is there anything else worth highlighting before we go? Yes, and not to gloss over Kamal and Assata, but it's getting pretty lengthy, and we wanna wrap this up a little bit because chapter 6 is literally right around the corner, and it's I'm gonna spoil a little something. It's gonna go down. It's going down. From chapter 5 on, this book escalates in action. Like we're not even close to the climax of this story. It's still like building up. It's building up. I'm not gonna spoil nothing else. So I want to draw our attention, last but not least, to Evelyn and Assata. Now, Evelyn is Assata Shakur's aunt. She's also the head of Assata Shakur's legal team. She's an attorney. She's her main attorney at that. You know, so there's something that's about to go down, so let's pay attention. Evelyn and I have a very close relationship. We love each other intensely, and we get along wonderfully, usually. But when we argue or disagree, it's awful. We are both outraged that the other one doesn't agree or see our point, and we feel betrayed and furious. And neither of us has neither one of us has the mildest temper in the world. Add to that the tremendous pressure we were both under, and you have the recipe for fireworks. During one of our strategy meetings, Evelyn and I locked horns. Try as we might, we couldn't reach any kind of agreement. After a while, we weren't even communicating. It became a matter of who had the last word and the final decision. I'm the lawyer, she yelled. I know what I'm doing. If you aren't going to listen to me, then what's the point of having me defend you? I'm the client, I yelled back. I'm the one who's going to do the 25 years in prison if you're wrong. What you're saying is that you don't trust me or my judgment, Evelyn said. Our argument went from bad to worse. After a while, we were saying all kinds of things we didn't mean to each other. And I'm going to leave it at that, and we're going to pick that up in chapter 7, remember, because odd number chapters deal with the trial, and even number chapters deal with Assata Shakur's life, like her upbringing, her childhood, all the way to adulthood. And eventually it's going to the chapters going to kind of start meshing with one another perfectly. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said this text in particular was thoughtfully put together. I appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for spending some time with me. I pray that everybody has a restful, peaceful weekend. I hope I'm encouraging you to purchase this book because, like I said before, reading this with me is an entirely different experience than if you're just listening to every word and hanging on to every word from me. You know, sometimes I don't do everything justice. You know, there's a lot in here. I'm not reading close to the entire chapter. the video would be dang near 2 hours because these some pretty lengthy chapters with a lot of details. I try to give you just the juicy parts so that we can provoke conversation and dialogue on this incredible woman and her contribution to the freedom struggle in the United States as well as all over the world. This has been another installment of Kimbe Reads. Our selection is Assata, an autobiography written by Assata Shakur herself, as well as has a foreword from the revolutionary Angela Davis and the world-renowned attorney, Mr. Lennox S. Hines. It's getting real. It's escalating. The story is still escalating. We're still building up. We are not at the peak. You have about 4 or 5 chapters to go before you see the action really climax, when you almost like, man, I can't even take it no more. When is this going to let up? Because it's a very serious situation. Things went down and things are going to continue to go down all throughout the story. You have to stay tuned. And we're going to gracefully transition on to chapter 6, which I'm excited about. Hopefully you're excited about it too. Again, this your boy Kimbe Ani. I'm going to gracefully bow out. And I'm going to see y'all next time. 1. About to highlight chapter 6 for you guys so we can get right into it.
You're a fly guy, and the things you do. And I need your love right now. It's alright when you're by my side. Give me my ride or die till the end, like Bonnie and Clyde. It's alright when you're by my side. Give me my ride or die till the end, like Bonnie and Clyde.
Netherlands gotta give me vibes. The way you twist your body and you whine.
Staring at your lips and at your eyes. Boy, I wanna hold you tight.